Many companies are facing a planet dilemma. Do they do the supposedly right thing and invest in electric vehicles, even though they may be costly in many ways? Do they go for half measures with hybrid? Or do they attempt to ignore the issue and just get on with managing the bigger challenges of this ever-changing world? Welcome to this BVTV Global Electric Vehicle Revolution duology, coming to you from the UK studios of BizVision. This is video one, my guest's keynote, and I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. I guess every driver currently has an opinion on electric vehicles. I know my neighbours do. Now, whether that opinion is based on fact or rumour or third-hand information, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of wrong information around. For example, one person told me that EVs are prone to catching fire. So I looked it up and found that there was a 0.0012% chance of a passenger electric vehicle battery catching fire compared with 0.1% chance for internal combustion engine cars. Okay, range concern, insurance costs, and charging times are all in the mix. But is there something bigger than that causing EV resistance? Do we feel that we're being forced into electric vehicle purchase by auto companies' desire for profits and domination? My guest today has some great guidance and thinking on this very important element. He's the author of The Electric Vehicle Revolution. So let's meet Ken Boyer. Hello, welcome, Ken.
Thank you for having me, Malcolm. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm delighted because, as we had a little chat before we came on air, and I just feel that these days people are now starting to look beyond the sales hype of EV vehicles. They're starting to say what's behind it, what's behind the scenes and everything. And your book excellently gives us that important information. Ken, in my opening piece, though, I alluded to driver and company concern about EV vehicles themselves, but you've been looking at the 5 visionaries leading the EV charge. Who are they? And is their mission genuinely planet-saving, or is there a lot of self-serving hype being used? And how should a business use your excellent book in its EV evaluation assessment?
Well phrased. As you said, there's some hype in everybody. We fake it until we make it. But at the same time, the people that I profile, I think, are genuinely trying to make an impact. So let's take a quick step backwards and talk about Henry Ford, the OG. I don't know if many people realize the Model T was his 20th try. So he failed 19 times before he got to the Model T. In 1909, powered propulsion was 1/3 gasoline, 1/3 electric, and 1/3 steam. So there was never an exactitude about us going gasoline. Gasoline won out for a variety of reasons. Henry Ford also did a lot of very interesting things with Ford Motor Company. There was a lot of marketing to women. This is 110 years ago. And a lot of what Ford did is say it's easy to repair the car. It's easy to drive. There's no complex shifting of gears. And so very genius marketing to include our better half that didn't have access to transportation at the time. At the same time, Bertha Benz, the wife of Otto Benz, in 1888 took the first road trip ever in a car. Her husband made the first car, the Motorwagen. But like many men, he didn't get that he had to market this. So she took it on a road trip of 70 miles with her 2 sons. She had to stop and talk a pharmacist into giving her essentially alcohol for gasoline. She had to pay a cobbler to make the first brake pads. She had to figure some things out. So that's kind of the point of my book, is it's a story about the mistakes that human beings inevitably make and what people do to try to clean up and get better. I'm a firm believer that humans have a lot of great ideas, but in almost every great idea, there's also a bad idea.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit about, first off, the gears of change. So let me introduce the idea. So I've got a tie on that did not come out well, so you can't really see it. But the gears of change are three parts, and there's a pun intended here. You don't need as many gears in an electric car, but you need a willingness to commit. What am I committing to? Who am I trying to convince? This is essentially marketing. So from the business side, how do I try to get customers to try to buy this car? Ability to profit. We live in a capitalist world. I've got to finance and pay for whatever I'm trying to do. And then the third gear is transforming the supply network. What a lot of people don't realize is Henry Ford didn't invent the moving assembly line. He copied it from the meatpacking industry in Chicago. What Henry Ford did was brilliantly build up a supply chain to make sure that all the parts he needed to make a Model T, which he made for almost 20 years, were there when they were needed. Okay, so let's turn to our visionaries. Elon Musk. There's very little doubt that he has changed the world. What a lot of people don't realize is he's one of 5 founders of Tesla. He was the 5th to the table. He brought money. He essentially nudged all the other founders out. They had to sue him to be named as co-founders. But he was committed. So he brought money, ability to profit. He brought willingness to commit. Boy, was he committed. He brought them through what he called production hell in 2016 to 18 when they were gearing up their volume factory in Fremont, California. So Tesla has essentially proved the concept that we can drive electric cars. Other visionaries. Pham Nhat Vuong was born at the height of the Tet Offensive in 1968 in Vietnam. Dirt poor, likely to die any day, went to Moscow to study in the late 80s and into the early 90s, built a business selling rice noodles. He sold it to Nestle for $150 million. Moves back to Vietnam and starts a range of other businesses. Vin Group, Vin AI, Vin Phones, Vin Mart, Vin School, Vin University. You get the idea.
Yeah.
In 2016, he decided, hey, let's make cars. And he started a company called VinFast. And to keep this digestible, I won't go into the details, but they're in the book. He hires Jim DeLuca, third visionary. Jim DeLuca was the head of all manufacturing for all of General Motors in 2016. He retires. He gets a call one day from a headhunter who talks him into moving to Vietnam and helping with this startup car company, right? So moves to Hanoi. They build a car company from 2017 to 2021, including building an assembly plant, the largest, most integrated assembly plant in the world, 90 miles east of Hanoi in Haiphong in 18 months from seafloor. They had to fill in the seafloor. You couldn't even get a permit in most Western countries in 18 months. They built an entire assembly plant. So they're in the ballgame. Okay. Fourth visionary, and I want to take a sidestep here, Rob Hansen. Rob Hansen graduated with a master's in mechanical engineering from Stanford. So he caught the Silicon Valley fever. He and his partner, Pete Johnson, said, we want to do something that could change the world. They spent years looking for an idea. They found a gentleman by the name of Laurent Fulchery in Paris. Actually, not in Paris. He was at École de Mines Paris, which is not in Paris. It's near Cannes. But Professor Fulchery had written a paper saying, theoretically, we can make carbon black from natural gas with lower carbon emissions and lower cost than making it from petroleum. What is carbon black? Well, anybody watching this may or may not know the Michelin Man is white because tires were white until somebody added carbon black to tires in about 1915. Carbon black makes up about 30% of every tire on the road today. Without it, the tires would go bad quickly. Carbon black is essentially soot. It burns off of petroleum. It's a very important ingredient. It also goes into mascara, paint, all the black tubing you see in your car, your air conditioner. It goes into almost everything. Long story short, Monolith Materials, founded by Rob Hansen and Pete Johnson, Bill Brady's a co-founder, has scaled up, and this has taken over a dozen years, a plant in Haslam, Nebraska, to produce from natural gas, carbon black, and either hydrogen or ammonia. They do this with much lower emissions, and it's lower cost. So they're changing the tire industry slowly. It's extraordinarily hard work. And then the final visionary is Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors. She's been CEO for 10 years, first female leader of one of the major automobile companies. As long ago as 10 years ago, she started pivoting towards electric vehicles. Now, to be fair, General Motors has waffled a little bit on its commitment because she has to report to the shareholders. And the shareholders don't like it when they don't make money. Okay. So I'll close kind of this opening segment on where are we at with electric vehicles around the world. Norway is going to be 90% electric this year. Norway, 90%. China's roughly 30%. Great Britain is about 19%. America is coming in at 10 to 11%. You may or may not have heard we have a little election coming up in November. Depending on who wins, there might be a slight turn left or right. But listen to the numbers. There's a lot of reason to go electric.
Yeah, excellent. Now, and I think it's important, and I know that purchasing people watching this and leaders will want to know more behind the scene, which is what we'll be discussing in our part 2 video. But beforehand, let's give people details of your URL, Ken. Obviously, viewers, you can see it on the screen behind me, but for listeners, let me spell it out for you. It's all the W's gearschange.com, gearschange.com. So that's gears with an S, change.com. Ken's book is called The Electric Vehicle Revolution, 5 Visionaries Leading the Charge. It's published by Roman and Littlefield. In our second video of this set of BVTV Global Duology, I want to take a deeper dive with Ken into electric vehicle evaluation. So can we do that, Ken?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.